Hello and welcome. I hope you're all well and happy. This is video number 3 in my little series of videos showing how I make a snippet roll. In this video I'm going to show you how I embellish the snippet roll and how I use it at the end. So come with me and let me show you what I've been up to. If you've seen my last 2 videos, you'll already be familiar with this snippet roll and how I've made it so far. But I'm just going to quickly show you through it to update you, and also for those of you that haven't seen it. So basically I've stuck down all these pieces of fabric. There are a few new pieces that I've added since my last video, so this is a new piece. So I've stuck the pieces down and then done a couple of rows of stitching just to hold them down. There will be areas like here that are still flicking up, but don't worry about that. We'll tack that down with some slow stitching or maybe a button, but every piece will be attached in the end. But for now there will be pieces kicking up, so don't worry about that. So basically all these pieces have just been stuck down like a jigsaw puzzle really, that you can't get wrong. So you can't put a piece in the wrong place, just put it wherever you think it looks nice. This is a new piece. So I'll just go slowly through it and then we'll get on and decorate it further. Oh, I think that was a new addition as well. Just trying to remember what pieces I've added. Well, I definitely added this piece since you last saw. And maybe this. So it's pretty much the same as when you last saw it. I've done a couple of bits, so there's a few French knots there. But let's move on and get this piece decorated. I think the snippet roll actually looks quite beautiful as it is, but to decorate it further, I'm going to add some slow stitching and a few other embellishments. So for the slow stitching, you will need some embroidery floss. I've sorted out these 3 that I think go nicely, and I've also got a few others here. I'm not sure about this one, so I may not use that. I have this one. It's got a slight pinky colour in it, but I think it will still go. And this one. If you don't have any embroidery floss and you're going to buy one, then I would suggest you buy one like this. This is a DMC and it's number 4145. And the reason I like it is because it's a variegated thread. So can you see here, you get several colours in one skein. So if you're buying just one, this will give you a nice variety of shades on your snippet roll. So as well as your embroidery floss, you will need obviously a needle to stitch with. You don't want to use a needle that has a blunt end, like a tapestry needle. You want to choose one that has a sharp end and an eye big enough for your thread to go through. So I'll probably use this one. We also need, well, I'm going to use some buttons. So I've sorted out some buttons here. I won't use them all, but these are some that I've chosen that match with the snippet roll. And I've got a few flowers. I may use some seed beads, not sure about that yet. And I may use some more scraps of fabric to make little embellishments with. And I may use some scraps of ribbon to make bits with, but I'll come back and show you if I do that. So to begin with, I'm adding a couple of rows of running stitch here. I've already started. I won't demonstrate how to do the stitches because there's people on here that are far more accomplished that will be able to show you much better than I can how they do the stitches. But I'll just show you what I'm doing on mine. So I'm going to do a couple of rows of running stitch along here. There, that's that little patch done. See, I haven't done them straight, I've just put stitches all higgledy-piggledy, but I think it looks lovely. It looks kind of rustic, so it just adds another little bit of interest to the snippet roll. So I'll do a few patches like that along the roll. Here I've done another little patch of running stitch. This is a little bit neater, but still looks rustic. And you can see I've used the variegated thread. So we've got the dark beige and then it goes through to a creamy colour. So I think that looks rather lovely. I've made these little puffs from a piece of ribbon. So they're Suffolk puffs, but I've made them using a piece of ribbon and made them from a square base rather than a circle. I've already sewn a couple on here. Not sure if you can see them, they're quite pale in colour, but they look very pretty. They've got some glitter in them. So I'll show you how I made them. So I've started off with a piece of ribbon and I'm just going to cut a square from it. So to make sure it's a square, I just fold it diagonally and then cut there. There we go. So we have a little square. I have a needle threaded. I'm just going to come up through in the corner and then just do a quick running stitch all along each edge. It just doesn't have to be even. Just run your needle all the way along in a running stitch and then come up in the corner like that. So, and then I usually just leave a tail on the end there. And then I'll do the same along each edge, so running along the edge, coming up, running along this edge and then coming up in the corner. There, when I've gone along each edge, you can see here, stitched down all four edges, and I'm pulling through at the top of the fabric, and then I'm just going to grab both ends and just gently pull. And it will pull up into a little ruffle. And I'm just going to tie a knot, so pull it fairly tight, not too tight so that you snap the thread, and just tie it in a knot. So that it doesn't come undone. And then I'm just going to thread the needle back through in the centre of the puff, just to get rid of that thread. That's it. And then I will thread this onto the needle and thread it through in the same way. And then just use your fingers to manipulate the puff and make it look pretty. There we go. Looks lovely, doesn't it? Very simple. I'm calling these Suffolk puffs, but many of you will call them yo-yos. Here I have a piece of silk that I've just cut into a circle, and I'm going to make a proper yo-yo out of this. So not from a square base, it's going to be from a circular base. But I'm going to do the same thing and just do a running stitch all the way around the edge and then pull it into a little puff. So in exactly the same way, I've gone around the circle with a running stitch and finished with both threads coming up through the fabric. And then I'm just going to gently pull them and guide the fabric into a little gather, like that. We've got a little puff, and then I'll tie off the ends. And here's the finished puff. It's tiny. To give you a guide to the size, I started off with this milk bottle top and drew round it to get my circle, and then this is the puff finished up with. So if you want your puff to be bigger than this, then obviously use a bigger circle to start with. Another embellishment I've made are these little rosettes, and again, to make these you start with a length of ribbon. So I'm going to make one with a piece of this brown vintage trim. So to start off with, I'm going to cut a piece about 4 inches, I think that'll be fine. Just snip a length and then thread your needle. For both the little rosettes and the puffs, I use my thread doubled up, so I thread through the needle and then take it along, so we've got double the thread for the strength. When you pull it at the end, it just makes it a bit more secure so it won't snap. And then just in the same way as we did for the yo-yos, we're going to run along one edge with a running stitch, and again, it doesn't have to be even. Just take your time and thread in and out, leaving a tail at the end. Finish off coming up at the other end. And see here we have the line of running stitch all the way along the bottom there. And then just grab both threads and pull, gently guiding them together. And then you've got a little U shape like that. You just tie the threads in a knot, pulling quite tight, but not too tight. You don't want to snap the thread. Once you've tied it in a knot, just manipulate it with your fingers to make a nice little rosette shape. And then you see here where the gap is. I'm just going to do a couple of tacks in that with the end of the thread that I've got still threaded on the needle. Get myself in a tangle here. Put that one out of the way. Okay, so I'm just going to do a couple of tacks along where they join. It won't even show, so it can be quite scruffy, it doesn't matter what it looks like. There we go. And then I'll just tie that off. Snip the ends of the thread. And there we have our little rosette. I like to make neutral snippet rolls because they're so versatile. Usually I don't know what project I want to use them in, so keeping them neutral gives me options at a later stage when I do decide how I want to use them. So if you've got a neutral roll and you want to use it with a green colour scheme, for instance, you can change it by adding pieces. You can always add pieces to a snippet roll, it's never really finished. So you can see here, if I add some few green bits, I can change the way it looks. And always add bits to it and do a bit of stitching with maybe a green thread. Or if we take that same piece and add some blue bits, and really change the way it looks just by adding pieces to match your colour scheme. So as I said, usually I don't know what I'm going to use the snippet roll for, and I don't really know what I'm going to use the whole of this for, but there is a piece, this bit here, and you may notice as I embellish it that I make this piece more brown than the rest of it. So I'll be adding brown bits because I do know what I want to use this piece of the strip in. Use this piece of the strip for, sorry. So that's why I made this little brown ruffle. It's a bit dark really for a neutral snippet roll, but because I know I'm going to use it on a particular project and I want some brown pieces on it, that's why I made that piece. So you'll notice that as I decorate this, I'll make this section a bit more brown than the rest of it. And then at the end of the video, I'll show you what I have in mind to use this for. One of the things I really love about working on a snippet roll is that it's never overwhelming, even if you're a beginner. As I mentioned, this snippet roll is just over 5 foot long, but if I just take a little section at a time, so at the moment I'm working on this section, you could even just add a couple of stitches in an evening. So here we have something that needs sorting out. So I'm going to add some blanket stitch down here and here. This piece here, where it's flicking up, I'm going to add an embellishment. So I may add one of my little puffs or a flower or this little rosette. So I'll just hold bits up and audition them and decide what I want to put there, and then I'll stitch that piece on. So I'll add bits to this until I think it looks pretty, and then I'll move along to another section. Moving on to this section, I'm going to add some stitching and maybe a little button cluster and an embellishment of some sort. So you can see by taking small sections you can manage your time. So if you just have 5 minutes you can just add a little bit, and also it's not overwhelming at all. You can just work slowly through it. I've been working on the part of the snippet roll that I previously explained would be more brown than the rest of the snippet roll. So here we have the part that I've been working on. You can see I've added, this is a little patch of, it's vintage brown cotton velvet, and I've stitched that on, the blanket stitch down here and just some stitches there to hold it on. I've put my little ruffle here and you can see the stitches where I've tacked it on. That's intentional, that you can see those stitches. Little brown flowers here, brown button, and along here some more blanket stitch, a few French knots down here and a little row of French knots here. Moving along a little bit, I've added this button here. It's very pretty pearlescent. It looks black on camera, but it's actually dark brown with some sort of ivory colour around the edge. And I've done this swirl of chain stitch here, and I'm going to add this little metal heart here. So you may recall this is for the part of the snippet roll that I'm going to use. I already have in mind what I'm using it for, and I'll show you that in a minute. I'm going to wrap this video up because it's getting very long, so I'm just going to stitch this on and then I'll move on to show you how I use my snippet rolls. If you're interested to see this snippet roll finished, you may have already seen enough of it, but if you want to see it totally finished, I can do a quick run through of that in another video. So just put a little note in the comments to tell me you'd like to see it finished, and then I will make another video just to show a quick run through of it. But because the video is getting so long now, you're going to get fed up with the sound of my voice. So I'm going to wrap it up and see you in another video. But as promised, I will show you how I use my snippet rolls in my projects. Some of you will know that I make junk journals. So most of my snippet rolls are used in my journals. This one is one I've already made. It's actually the wrong colour scheme for my snippet roll, but just to demonstrate how I use it, I'm going to make a journal that will have pinky colour pages like this. So with this is my previous snippet roll that you may have seen on a different video. So I would make maybe a pocket in my journal, so a little pocket at the bottom. So I'd stitch down here, down here, and down here, snip the snippet roll here, and then make a little pocket that you can tuck things into like that. Another thing I may use it for would be to make a belly band. So we have a page like this, and then, sorry, getting in a tangle, take the snippet roll and just cut it, just lay it on the page like that, and then I would just cut it here and here and make a little belly band. So I'd stitch it on at the top and the bottom, and then make a little band that you can tuck things behind, like that. See, that looks beautiful. I may even just cut a little bit from my snippet roll and make a corner tuck. So I would cut a piece, stitch it along here and along here, just to make a little corner tuck in the journal. A little spot like that where you could tuck something if you wanted to. Where I've tea dyed some of the fabric on my current snippet roll, it coordinates perfectly with my tea dyed pages that I use in my journals. So here I could make a little pocket. So I'd trim the snippet roll here and here, and it'd make a perfect little pocket in my journal. Here I have another tea dyed page, and you can see it really coordinates beautifully with the paper. So I'd cut this snippet roll here and here, and then stitch it along 3 sides, and that would give me a little pocket in my journal. I really like to use my snippet rolls to embellish book covers. So here's an old book that I will be making into a journal. And I could take a section of the snippet roll, so I could cut it here and here and use it, stick it down on the front cover. You can see that looks really lovely. Or you could use it along the other edge, or you could use it on the spine. So you could run a strip down the spine there. So you can see it's really useful for a journal maker. You'll remember the brown part of the snippet roll. Well, it will come as no surprise to you that I'm going to use this in one of my journals as well. Let me show you what I have in mind. I was lucky enough to find this beautiful antique book. It's a lovely green here, and then the spine and the corners are brown leather. So you can see why I wanted that part of the snippet roll to be a bit more brown. It's really beautiful. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with it yet, but I may add something to the cover. But I thought if I make a closure that's quite decorative, then even if I don't add anything, it still looks beautiful. So you can see here, I'm going to cut the snippet roll here somewhere, and then it will wrap around the book. And then I will cut it here somewhere. And then I will add, I have this lovely brown cotton. It's a vintage trim, and it's got a sort of satiny sheen to it, but it is cotton. So I'm going to add, I'll cut it there as I said, and then I will stitch this on to here, and then this will be a tie. So it will tie closed at the side of the book. You can see that looks really lovely. So I may add some more bits to this and some more stitching, but that gives you the general idea of what I'm doing with that piece of the snippet roll. I've changed my mind. I think this looks like a googly eye. So I've unpicked that and I'm taking it off, and I'm going to add this button instead, which I think looks far more in keeping with the rest of the snippet roll than a googly eye. I'll just quickly show you this. This is a box that I bought in a charity shop or thrift store for £1, and it's what I've been using to keep my work in progress snippet rolls in. So I've decided to I'm going to make a little snippet roll which I will stick around the lid of this box. I think it'll look really beautiful and very appropriate, as it's the box that holds my snippet rolls. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed my video. I'll come back and show you when I have something else interesting to show you. But until then, take care, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.